The Kansas City Chiefs lost on Sunday to the Buffalo Bills, and the sky is falling and everything's terrible. And, well, not really. In reality, if you're a Chiefs fan, you actually feel like things are pretty good. You might even be a little bit chipper. Look, it's a weird thing to say. You're not used to having a loss. It doesn't really hurt. Usually when the Chiefs lose, it's either a game you feel like they absolutely should have won, see the Indianapolis Colts game, or a game that's in the playoffs, because they don't lose many games, especially in the regular season. The Chiefs, with Patrick Mahomes under center, almost the best bet in football to win. Well, it didn't happen on Sunday. The Chiefs were winning in the fourth quarter. They had their opportunities, and then Josh Allen did what Josh Allen does. He showed why he's a great player. He drove the Bills down the field, and Mahomes could not answer with a pick in the final minute. So why feel good about it if you're a Chiefs fan? Well, because the Chiefs are a work in progress, and everybody knew that coming into the season. This is a lot of new faces and new places type of thing, right? I mean, this is rookies, this is free agents coming in, and yet it's working pretty well. Right now, Juju Smith-Schuster's on pace for over 1,000 yards. MVS is on pace for a career year. McCole Hardman's on pace to do what McCole Hardman always does, which is end up right around 600 yards, 550 yards receiving. The Chiefs are running the ball decently. I don't think you're too upset with that. Maybe you'd like to see him run a little bit more, but the actual ability to run the ball has been okay. They're averaging 4.5 yards a carry. Patrick Mahomes, you don't love the 2 picks on Sunday against Buffalo, but otherwise, he's been Patrick Mahomes. He's completing 66% of his throws. He's thrown 17 touchdowns and 4 picks. He's fine. If you're the Chiefs, like the actual Chiefs, the players, the executives, the coaches, you're upset you lost because you never like to lose. But I think you walk out of that game saying if that's the best the NFL has to offer, and I believe the Bills certainly are, you're going to be right there when it counts in January. The Chiefs absolutely could have won on Sunday against Buffalo. They averaged more yards per play. They had the same third down conversion rate. They had almost 400 yards in total offense. They had a touchdown wiped out by a very questionable penalty, although I do think it was a penalty letter of the law with Humphrey 1.5 yards, 2 yards downfield. And they got nothing out of that. Now, listen, you could always do that woulda, coulda, shoulda stuff, right? If you're a Bills fan, you could absolutely sit there and say, hey, look, both teams turned it over in the red zone. That's fair. Chiefs did miss a field goal, but they also hit a 62-yarder, okay? Even up. But I think if you're the Chiefs, you're sitting there saying, we had the game on our racket in the fourth quarter. 17-17, get a big stop near midfield, only get a field goal out of it on the pass interference to Kelsey that wiped out what probably would have been a touchdown drive. You get 3. Then you stop the Bills, and you get a call. You get really lucky because Chris Jones absolutely tripped Josh Allen. You get the ball back there, and that's the killer. It's where you go 3 and out. But here's the other side of this. If you watch that game, and you're a Chiefs fan, you know how beat up they were in the secondary. No Trent McDuffie, no Brian Cook, no Rashad Fenton. If you get all those guys back, and you get Willie Gay back on the second level, how different is that game? Because the Chiefs found something against Josh Allen that was working, and it stopped working only because at some point the Bills said, we're just going to go with Joshua Williams one-on-one the whole game. Who, by the way, acquitted himself fairly well considering the circumstances. The Chiefs relentlessly blitzed Allen, and there was a stretch in the game where he went 2 for 11 for 15 yards. Now, you're never going to hold them down like that for a whole game. But the Chiefs were actually really successful at getting pressure, at generating pressure. The funny thing is they only sacked Allen once, but they pressured him a lot throughout the game. Now, Bills will make adjustments, Chiefs will make adjustments. But the point of it is, at worst, the Chiefs are even with the Bills. And I could make the case that if they executed a little bit better in some spots where they should have just executed a little bit better, they probably win. Case in point, allowing a 99-yard drive in a minute. That's on the Chiefs. I mean, due respect to the Bills. They made a couple of terrific throws and got the job done. When you give up a drive like that, that's more on the defense than it is on the offense. Kansas City was not outclassed in the game. And if you look around the conference, who else really threatens you? I think the Chargers have to be respected because of their talent level, although the Chargers have shown year in and year out that they're not capable of winning big games. Who else is there? The Ravens can't hold double-digit leads ever. They lost again after having a double-digit lead, this time in the fourth quarter with 7 minutes left to Daniel Jones. They couldn't hold that lead. The Bengals struggled to beat Andy Dalton, The Bengals this year have beaten Andy Dalton, Teddy Bridgewater, and Joe Flacco, and they've looked terrible doing it. They're 3-3. The rest of the AFC East, North, South, what are you worried about? The Raiders or the Broncos in the West? The Chiefs basically tried to donate a game to the Raiders. They still beat them. I think if you're the Chiefs, you're disappointed you lost. The Bills now are very likely to have home field advantage. The Chiefs are probably going to have to go to Buffalo for the AFC Championship game. Granted, 11 games is 11 games. The Chiefs might be favored in every game the rest of the way. But the Bills have the upper hand. And it's got to be said. The Bills have beaten the Chiefs 2 of the last 3 times they've played, and it took a miracle for the Chiefs to win the other game. But all these games have their own flavor. Last year's regular season game felt like a turning point in the rivalry. The Bills hammered the Chiefs. It was never close. This game was not that. This was really close. The Chiefs absolutely could have won the game. And in some corners, maybe even should have won the game. You give all the flowers to the Bills for this game. You say, hey, look, you won. Credit to you. But if you're the Chiefs, you're far from distraught or deterred based on how that game went. I think Kansas City is every bit as good as Buffalo. I don't know that they're better. I think they're every bit as good, and they should be right there when January rolls around. And let's be honest. Look, this game mattered. This game might have determined home field advantage. I'm not taking that away from Buffalo. Again, give the Bills all the credit in the world. But the game that really matters is January. Just remember last year when the Bills went in and dominated, and then they lost in the playoffs. Nobody cares if they won in Week 5. It doesn't matter. And you know what the truth of it is? Let's live in an alternate world for a second. Let's say at the very end of that game, Allen throws a ball that gets popped up in the air and the Chiefs pick it off. If you're a Chiefs fan, you're sitting there and you're thrilled to death, right? You won, you have a great shot at home field, all of it. Are you feeling ultra confident that they're going to beat the Bills again when they see them? Like, are you over the moon confident now that you're free and clear? Of course not. And if you're a Bills fan, you should be over the moon and thrilled that you won and you went to Arrowhead and you did what you needed to do. And a million points of respect for Buffalo. But if you're a Bills fan, you're honest with yourself. You know that if you see the Chiefs again, that is going to be a brawl. And everybody all week long going into that game is going to be a nervous wreck. Look, I think the die is cast in the AFC, as long as there's no big injuries to these quarterbacks. I think Buffalo is going to be the number 1 seed. And I think the Chiefs are going to be the number 2 seed. And I don't think anybody's beating either one of these teams other than each other. These teams are going to see each other in the AFC Championship game if they're healthy. Yes, there's always the possibility of a fly in the ointment. Maybe the Chargers, you catch them on the wrong day. Maybe the Ravens or Bengals really improve and they find a way. I wouldn't bet on that. I wouldn't. It's a really good chance, better than not, that Buffalo and Kansas City, this time in Orchard Park, play for the AFC Championship. And both fan bases can say whatever they want. They can chirp all they want. They're going to be nervous wrecks all week. But I think if you're the Chiefs, based on all the player movement this offseason, I think you're okay with that. More maybe than you are if you're Buffalo. Like if you're the Chiefs, I think you feel fine. I think you feel like, look, they've always been a defense under Spagnuolo that just gets better as the year goes on. And again, you watch that game defensively for the Chiefs, they gave up a lot of yards. I understand that. Okay, they surrendered 443 yards. They gave up 24 points. I think if you're the Chiefs, knowing you were without 3 defensive starters and really a guy in Cook who's a 4th almost because he plays more than half the snaps in a lot of these games, I think for the Chiefs, you feel pretty good. So listen, take heart if you're a Chiefs fan. That loss was far from devastating. It may have altered the season in the sense that you probably have to go to Buffalo. I don't think that's the end of the world. It's not like the Chiefs are some warm weather team that can't go up there and win. They're not going to be intimidated. The Chiefs have won every game there is to win. The Chiefs can absolutely go on the road and handle business. So listen, kudos to the Bills. Big win. But if you're the Chiefs, you're far from devastated with that outcome. You can win going forward, not only for most of your games, a lot of your games, the rest of the regular season, but if you play the Bills again, that is far from a certain win for Buffalo. I think the Chiefs walk out of there disappointed, but not deterred.